police targeted and abused as a young adult. I had been driving in the twilight in the foothills of San Jose, California in my pearl orange, aka shiny reflective red, supercharged MR2 sports car with its license plate D Quest. That's D with a little half space, Quest. It was my first real new car that I bought upon signing my first game contract. More on that later. Out of nowhere, on a foothill descent, the Christmas tree lights atop a police squad car lit up, along with its siren blaring. Immediately following was a megaphone of a man screaming and demanding that I pull over. Of course, I pulled over. I kept both hands on the steering wheel because I had heard and learned from previous pullovers that not doing so might freak a cop out and could end poorly for the person pulled over. The officer sauntered up to my window, which I had lowered in anticipation, and he informed me that I was speeding and swerving. I was not speeding. I was not swerving. I was literally cruising the foothills for leisure. What the officer did not know was that I had a car phone in my vehicle. It was on speakerphone. I challenged the officer and said that I had not been speeding and was not swerving at all and was just driving very properly on the road, and he asserted that it was his word against mine and that he would win in traffic court. I knew he was right. I knew that if I just showed up with my word against his, a traffic commissioner judge would certainly find me guilty, despite it being a lie and wrong. Well, I had a solution. I said, "Hey, Francisco, can you say hi to the officer?" Francisco Carvalho was a friend of mine that lived nearby where I was driving. I was thinking of swinging by his house to see him that night, and so I was calling him. I was on speakerphone talking with Francisco when I was pulled over. Francisco had remained on the phone but did not speak. As if my car was Michael Knight's Kit talking car from the TV show, Francisco spoke from the center dash. "Hi, officer. I heard everything, and I recorded everything." Francisco did not need to say anything more. The cop looked horrified. He was caught. He could not know if there was a recording or not. But regardless, Francisco was a witness, and I had a time-stamped phone record. The officer knew he was in the wrong, and now he knew I had evidence against his lies. Flustered, he just told me to get the heck out of there, and so I drove away, and that was the end of that. Police can be abusive for reasons I never understood. Were they jealous of my age and owning nice cars? Was it my leather jacket and long hair that I wore of the era? Did I just look bad to them? Was it my license plates of Karma Entertainment or KRMA space ENT? Or D-Quest for the Quest that they often misinterpret as Drug Quest? For reasons unknown to me though, I was often profiled and targeted by police. I had been pulled over for traffic stops a lot. In fact, I had 13 traffic tickets in 1 year alone, which apparently requires a Department of Motor Vehicles, DMV, tribunal, with police and DMV magistrates present to judge. Who knew such existed? They host a DMV court that judges your record to see if they should suspend your license or give you another point so that you could continue without a suspension. It is hard to remember all the times that I had been pulled over. Most of the times I was breaking the speed limit and so probably did deserve a speeding ticket. But there were times, however, they were trumped up or exaggerated, like 5 miles per hour over the speed limit, calling that excessive. They were speed traps. They were all about making money. California traffic police were corrupt. I recall a time where I was surrounded by 3 squad cars for driving 55 miles per hour, admittedly in a 35 mile per hour suburban street. There was no one around at the time, but it was Foster City, and the police department is very zealous. They took speeding seriously. And then there was another time where I stupidly got out of my car when I pulled over around 2 a.m. nearby, about 30 minutes from Foster City, on a road called the Pacific Coast Highway. Well, that ended poorly for me. 2 more backup police cars were called. The police officers pulled guns. They used megaphones to call me and tell me to get out of the car. And they gave me a stern lecture about how stupid I was, and that I must always sit still, place my hands on the steering wheel if I valued my life. They explained that police don't know who or what I am and what I might do, and they might overreact themselves. Honestly, they gave me good words of wisdom. That said, they were verbally condemning of me beyond writing me up for their trumped up charges. Sometimes, like I say, when I was speeding, maybe it was fair, but they really scolded me and made me feel like I was some idiot criminal. They would write other excessive things like exhibition of speed, of course driving too fast for conditions, unsafe driving, things that could not be quantified objectively so that they would always have a defensible place to win against me in courts. They honestly should have just said, "We don't like him, so fine him." Oh well. I actually did have a gun pulled on me once, not just out when they pulled me over. I pulled up to a friend in a shady area of town, and an undercover squad car pulled up behind with its siren slapped on its roof. 2 plainclothes cops came to either side of the car, guns drawn, badges hanging around their necks. The officers' guns tapped on my windows. The one on the driver's side indicated I should lower my window. It was a crazy situation. They demanded to search my car for drugs, alleging that I was a drug dealer. I did not want them to search my car out of principle, which only made them think all the more that I was a drug dealer hiding my stash somewhere in the car. Well, I finally did let them search the car. I felt abused and pressured, but it was the only path, I thought, to get this over with. Finding nothing, of course, I heard the officers outside around the back of the car complaining that they could be in trouble for illegal search and seizure without finding anything. The officer previously tapping on my window with his firearm came to me and he informed me that I made an illegal left turn, running a red light, and I squealed with my tires as I did so in fog, which endangered other drivers and pedestrians. There were no other drivers. There were no pedestrians. There were some parked cars along the street. There were streetlights. It was slightly foggy, but none of that mattered. The truth did not matter. I fought all of those charges in traffic court, but discovered that traffic court is neither criminal nor civil court. As a result, if a police officer says an opinion in traffic court, it is accepted as fact without question. An individual cannot win in traffic court unless the officer does not show up. Police officers always show up for traffic court appearances if they do not have a conflicting event. Traffic court was simply the whim of the people court. I lost every single appearance in traffic court except for one, which may seem dubious. I won the privilege to keep driving, which meant I could get more citations and pay more money in fines. Do you think that's a coincidence that paying all that money allowed me to keep driving? Something that apparently I was so dangerous at doing, though never having a single accident. I have had a lot of traffic violations with police. In the end, I legitimately got a half a dozen or so speeding tickets because I did not believe that 55 miles per hour was right. Those speed limits are now 65 upwards to 85 miles per hour. I guess I was right. I wrongly was cited for all of those times for speeding over 55 but well under 85 miles per hour. I was cited for unsafe left turns, exhibition of speed, driving in unsafe conditions, and so forth, all untrue. Collectively, my legitimate speeding tickets and illegitimate traffic citations added up DMV traffic court tribunals. I believe my indignant attitude came across as hubris and disrespect. Perhaps both affected the outcomes of my hearings. Maybe they hurt my case. Therefore, in one time, I hired an attorney to handle my DMV court entirely, without me even showing up. I didn't want to deal with it anymore. Without anything but time, the lawyer called me one day and said the DMV agreed that because I drove over 35,000 miles a year, which was mostly for leisure and creative thinking, that I fell into a trucker professional driver category, which therefore I was entitled to more traffic citations than ordinary drivers, and thus I could keep driving and get more tickets and pay more fines. The idea that people are allowed more citations if they drive more told me two things. Well, I would keep my license and keep on trucking, as the saying goes. And the law is not about dissuading people from breaking the law, but limiting how much they can break, and making money off of them along the way in restitution penance for their violations. Traffic laws were a scam. Traffic laws were originally intended for safety, but they had been subverted into profit centers. They no longer sought to discourage speeding or minor violations, but rather were set up to maximize profit. Even the fines were payable with credit cards, and the amounts just at the average income sweet spot that was narrowly affordable, but affordable maybe. The rationale: if fines hurt someone financially, it will stop them from breaking the law. The fines are not enough, though, to discourage the violations, because cities want the citation revenue, and so do not want to discourage the violations. Police are directed to cite violations to satisfy quotas, which are designed to drive baselines of revenue for the city, not to prevent speeding and traffic violations. The whole thing has been set up as a scam perpetrated on citizens by officials that they elected. The DMV court and the traffic citation revenues, they're all scams. They are examples of a deeply rooted, systemic, revenue-driven government hiding behind the phrase of social services.